So what's the first thing that you notice, Michael? This is interesting because you got an entire page to work with, which we don't always get an entire page. What jumps out at you?
So first jumps out for me that left side is higher and it makes this curve so down to the right. So
Correct.
then jumps out a little bit down, it becomes more straight. So it's more in level, the line.
Yes. So Kat, what does that mean? That was a great observation, totally accurate. What does that mean when we have a entire baseline moving down or then moving up?
It's a type of depression.
A type of depression, absolutely. And what happens when we've got the inconsistency? So you've got down in parts of the letter, up in the next part of the letter.
Well, not very stable.
So instability would be the word, and especially regards to emotions, depression, yep. Sadness. Those really halting negative emotions are key. So that's just part of what they saw Gestalt. And Michael, you're German, so you may have read some German graphology books. Generally, the German,
yes.
You have?
No, not yet.
Okay, well, don't do it, and I'll tell you why. The German lineage, like in the 1800s, 1900s, they did everything from a holistic perspective, which is what we're looking at now: down, up, size, measurement. And if you're really good at it, it's spot on, right? But it takes years to be able to sort of holistically put those together. The French took a little bit more direct approach and had individual strokes. So at Handwriting University, we really combine the two well. But as a beginner, I've always found it's better to focus on the individual strokes. And then as you see hundreds of handwriting samples, you'll find those strokes kind of start building the personality. However, things like depression or margins are very, very useful. And this sample is a pretty good element of that. Now, it looks like here, down at the bottom left, we're getting a scan where some of the handwriting is off the page. And the same thing here. So we really don't know how close the margins were to the actual page, which makes it hard to determine the accuracy. But anytime you've got someone crowding the left margin, it tends to be a fear of letting go of the past. And those are just really big overall, what I saw Gestalt observations. If you get in here a little tighter, let's see if we can zoom in a little bit.
But while we're looking at the full screen for just a minute, I always find content is important. And when I look at this, when I see the first part depression, the first couple lines, and then it comes very straight, I read it quickly. And at the very couple lines, he's talking about this individual who behaves bad. In other words, this is frustrating. Remember, handwriting is brain writing. So the part of this conversation is very difficult for him to handle. When he gets towards the bottom of the letter, it's more of he gets off the topic. He's writing about something else or a side to it. So I think part of the beginning depression is because the person he's talking about, the behavior is very difficult for him to handle and frustrating. And then when all of a sudden it gets better, it's because he's not thinking of that part. It's more back to where he should be.
And if you look at the content, the word suffers, despair, meaningless, chatter. It's pretty difficult to write about that stuff if you're a compassionate person and not have some emotion. So I think that's a great observation, Doc. You're seeing a lot of empathy come through there. And the one thing that I really noticed as I looked into it is this stroke here. Now, Michael, I don't think you know this stroke, but I bet you $10 Kat does. What is that?
The lead-in stroke?
Yes, ma'am.
Resentment?
It's called resentment. It's a primary stroke, and it's a firm beginning. We'll see it here on the H. It's a little bit curved. Here on the O. We do not see it here because it is a curved stroke, and that one is probably there too. And my research, both in handwriting and in just general sociology books and psychology books, is that the thought of resentment or bitterness, meaning the thought of somebody focusing on unfairness, life isn't fair, anger, those are general emotions that cause both dis-ease in the health as well as, distrust and tumultuous relationships. So it doesn't surprise me this person is suffering from depression because resentment is one of the core of what I would call the negative traits. And if we move to Doc, what he's teaching in our advanced course, you see that firm resentment stroke, which is the primary stroke. You see it in 5 or 6 sort of really advanced obscure traits, which may not even have names that we'd recognize, but it's a different variation on harsh straight lines. Doc, do you want to elaborate on how that resentment shows up in other letters, especially uncommon letters?
Well, in the graduate course, we're really going to get at that in March. And really, in some of the unusual strokes, you always have that resentment stroke. And as you said, that resentment stroke is, resentment, sometimes people just fluff it off. But that's kind of really an internal thing that's hard to handle and deal with. When you resent somebody, that's because they did something wrong to you, or you felt somebody wronged you. So it just increases all the negative traits that you have because it's just turns your whole feeling around.